Hey there, it's Tammy Davis here. Thanks for joining me. And what I'm about to talk about is a little bit, I don't want to say difficult. It's, for one thing, as you know, completely unscripted. And it's not an easy subject, truthfully. But it is along the lines of essential oils. And really what I'm wanting to talk about today is adverse reactions. For the most part, there's a good portion of the population currently using essential oils, and which is a great thing. The challenge that we have, and I feel like part of my mission is to help us rethink the way we view health, in the sense that when the body starts to become sick or beginning to show symptoms is a better way to put it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's weak and incapable. It's actually seeking to take care of you. I realize that when you have symptoms, it doesn't seem like it, and so that's generally where we end up stopping and then beginning to take remedies, whether it be medications or supplements or herbs and what have you, oils, to remedy the situation, which makes complete sense. This is the way we've done things for as long as we know. We haven't been taught anything differently. But the truth is that we understand the human genome is adaptable. It's adapted throughout our history of existence, and it continues to do so now through, having done the studies and the continued studies that they do. They recognize that various gene receptors can be activated and deactivated, and this just occurs every second of every day, whether we are doing anything on purpose or we're exposed to something, or it's just, for that matter, our sleep cycle is a really good example. It's a really good example of how the body just changes chemistry. Serotonin is actually converted into melatonin, which is a hormone. So you have this conversion occurring, but the way that happens is various genes start doing little things. They start, kind of flipping switches here to regulate the chemistry so that the body can actually get into the rest zone. In fact, sleep is really very important. And then probably somebody watching this just went, duh, but it's actually really important because it's nature's answer to the stress response. I've talked about this a number of times, that we are in constant high alert. The challenge is that it's never ending, and we've got to find a way to break that cycle. And truthfully, sleep is your best bet at this point. That's not the only answer. The exercise is absolutely great. Meditation, prayer, energy work. Really helping the body to settle down at any point throughout the day is a really good idea. But as far as essential oils go, they can trigger stress just like anything else. I've loved them and held them near and dear to my heart, and continue to do so for almost 30 years. The thing is that the more familiar I become with them, the more I want to talk about the importance of regulating them and not just dousing ourselves with them, because it could potentially be counterintuitive to what you're currently doing. And the reason this comes to mind, like I said initially, is adverse reactions that I encounter with my own clients. This isn't to say that when they experience the reactions that they're just left hanging or they're taken off. We may actually stop something for a while, allow the body to settle down, and then gradually work our way back into using these, building the system back up. An adverse reaction is essentially an immune reaction. I realize that we currently look at it as a bad thing, as something as toxic. And let's just face it, the world is not the same as it used to be 100 years ago. We have so many things that we are exposed to on a daily basis that are toxic, and it could be any number of things that are influencing these reactions. The fact that when you use an essential oil and you have something go on that is unpleasant doesn't mean the oil is the problem. It means it actually activated something in the system. It may not have been the best time to do so, and at the same time it was a very good indication that something is trying to come out, and it's assisting the system at that level. I've worked in offices before where I've heard practitioners encourage patients to go through the distress, from taking nutraceuticals and experiencing, really just, again, unpleasant symptoms, and just being told that this was a healing crisis and just, power through it. Now, I have had people tell me that they were just going to stick with it, and I don't recommend that because, like I said, it's stressful to the system. And even though stress does help us at various points in times, whether it be throughout the day or throughout our life, we don't need to tax the system any further. Know that, again, less is more. So if you are to use an essential oil or a combination of oils and experience something that is a challenge, then I would allow your system to get through it. Stop using it. Doesn't necessarily mean you're, I don't even like to use the word allergic, because allergic or an allergic reaction is just that. It's another immune reaction. What all of this tells me is that there's a hormonal imbalance that is influencing an immune disruption or immune dysfunction. And which way that swings really depends on your system. But this all came about because this last week I've had several people start to use something, and stuff started happening, and it was alarming, and they contacted me, and the thing is to restore peace to the body, which is what we are actually wired for. This is really when we have a healing crisis. This is essentially the body going, I'm working here and I need your assistance. And maybe it means backing off of a lot of things. This is the reason when we have babies that end up with what we consider to be food allergies, we will eliminate, a good portion of what foods we suspect, and then until we can get them stabilized, and then add one food at a time. This is also the reason why that you're encouraged to only introduce one food at a time in order to identify if there are in fact going to be any food allergies. So the same mentality that we apply to teaching our children to eat, or helping our children, or feeding our children, it needs to be applied when we do medications, when we use oils. And in fact, the one person I'm thinking of right now was taking, has a history of chronic stress, emotional stress. She has consistent hives, she'll get flare-ups of, full body hives for years. She gets severe headaches, and, the doctors at this point are doing a number of tests on her to see what she comes up with. And the fact is that they can't identify any illness. They suspect it's probably autoimmune, and then they've come up with a number of names for it. She also has high blood pressure, and so a couple months back, 3 months ago, she was placed on prednisone and Ativan because she was having a hard time sleeping. So let me just reiterate here: high blood pressure, hives, headaches, and insomnia. And as soon as she went on those medications, she's been using oils from me for a little while, and I had to tell her to stop using the oils because of the potential interactions. And the plan was for her to be on these and then wean her down, which her doctor helped her to do, because she told her doctor that she didn't want to stay on these medications, and the doctor was fine with it as long as we could relieve the symptoms and see how she did. Well, as once she had stopped the medications, she reintroduced the oils, and and we started her on a new blend, and everything kind of started back, which wasn't a good thing. I mean, it's disappointing, right? This is where we all, I mean, I even go there. Let's face it. I mean, you just want people to feel good. And when somebody calls you up and says, hey, look, this just happened and I don't know what to do and I feel like crap. So I told her, based on what this sounds so much like a histamine reaction, it's unbelievable. And the fact is that, an autoimmune reaction is just a confusing mix of macrophages and histamine and all sorts of oxidative stress that's occurring, and inflammation is rampant. So I actually had her stop everything for 2 weeks to get everything out of her system, and we reintroduced everything. First, we did one oil first, and then the next day we went to another oil, and she did great the first day with the introduction of the second oil, which was to help her to sleep because she still wasn't sleeping. She slept and woke up and had a really severe headache. So, and the way she describes it, you can just hear it's just vascularity in the head. It's just a lot of pressure in the head. And the thing is that histamine is actually, a high histamine can even trigger high blood pressure. So there's a lot of there's a theme. So what I ended up telling her was that the bottom line to all of this, because truthfully, not sleeping is stressful. So what we need to do is get you to sleep. And so use your sleep blend that she has, or the blend that she has that could potentiate sleep. And she did, and she's sleeping wonderfully. Now, we didn't reintroduce the other oil. I told her I wanted her to wait and just do this once a week. This is the way it needs to work, because she still takes high blood pressure medication. And even though with the high blood pressure medication that she takes, and this goes for any medication, you can look up your interactions and it's not going to list them. Well, I shouldn't say that. It does list interactions. There's plenty of medications that have so many known interactions, but that's just it. They're known interactions. It's virtually impossible to identify an interaction, a potential interaction for everyone on the planet, because we each have different systems. So caution is necessary, and when these adverse reactions occur, it's advisable to actually consider it as a sign that things kind of went the other direction. And the best way to do this, to actually restore balance, is to give the body a chance to settle down. And like I said, if you get some sleep, you've just relieved over half of the stress issues that you have going on. That alone will relieve the stress response. And when the stress response is activated, all systems are redirected for other purposes, which includes high energy and, rapid focus, but ongoing, it's detrimental to the system. And the body actually needs to reset itself, as we know, and at least getting someone to sleep is the most important piece. And then once that happens and you give the system a chance to kind of stabilize, now you go back in and you reintroduce the oils. This works alongside, and it's a great way to actually help the body better use the medications. I have people all the time who contact me because they know that I work with oils, and I highly recommend them. They'll go, well, I use medications and I have no intention of coming off medications. That's okay. It's actually advisable to use oils alongside, but as I've talked about before, you want to create balance with the oils. You don't want to do the same thing the medications are doing. So understanding the mechanism of action of these pharmaceuticals is imperative so that you are not double dipping. Like in this particular person's case, I have no business affecting her blood pressure. She's already got it taken care of with the blood pressure medication. The oil that she's only going to be using infrequently at this point could potentially be interacting with that. But again, when I looked up the constituents of the oils and compared it to the medication, there weren't any known effects. But in her system, because of her life and her lifestyle, she still gets a histamine reaction. So we have to take it easy and not supercharge the system. And this is where the oils come in, because like I said, they actually help to restore balance and assist your medications to work. Does this mean that we need to take everything under the sun? No. Does it mean that you need to do the oils every single day? Well, I'd like to think so, but if there's medications involved, probably not. And it's not my job to tell anybody to come off of a medication. As a patient, you have that right to have that conversation with your physician. But at no point in time does anyone ever come off of a medication because I've recommended it. It's stupidity. The system has a need, and it takes a lot of caution. And this is the reason why I've become so serious about the oils, because I don't want people to find themselves challenged. I don't want them to be discouraged. I want them to get the full benefit of what we've been given. And so that said, using the oils sparingly, like I say, less is more. I mean, I've already talked about using just a couple of drops, but at this point, I mean, even putting people to sleep. I have another client who had heart surgery 3 months ago, and he was, oddly enough, diagnosed with a very similar condition that this other woman was diagnosed with, and it was all happened within the same time frame. They both live in different states, but he was diagnosed with temporal arteritis, and she was potentially diagnosed with giant cell arteritis. And so it's common. I mean, I shouldn't say it's common, but it's similar. At any rate, and his initial treatment went very much like hers. The challenge with him is that his heart went out during all of it, and so he ended up having open heart surgery. Now he's on, I think, 5 or 6 different medications, which included a sleep pharmaceutical, but he wasn't happy about it because he only got a couple of hours of sleep, and then he was waking back up again and was told that he could just take a common antihistamine that would actually help get him back to sleep in the middle of the night. But he contacted me because we have a working relationship. And I double checked everything. And again, caution is necessary. And I can't make any 100% guarantees that he's not going to have a reaction. But you know what? He didn't. And he said to me, if you can get me to sleep, because sleep has been a problem for him, which is true, because that's initially how I started working with him, and we got him to sleep, and then, but we had to even use caution initially because he was taking, again, prednisone and a couple of other medications. So sleep was difficult. That said, it became even more problematic once the heart surgery was completed. So fast forward to a couple weeks ago, and he says to me, if you can actually get me to sleep with this would be worth it. This would be like gold to me. And he did. He's sleeping. So I understand that there's a lot to helping the body. And I think the most important part is to recognize the fact that we are actually wired for peace. I'm actually writing something about that right now. But what I mean by that is that the body's consistently seeking homeostasis. And when it cannot get to that point of balance, it's our responsibility to listen to the signs. And so illness and symptoms are just that. They are the signs requesting balance, because once we actually help provide the balance, the body can find peace. And a large part of that balance comes from getting the body to sleep. So that's kind of the message I have for you today. It's not real specific about essential oils, but it really is imperative to understand that if you don't use oils for anything else, knowing how to use them for your sleep and how they pair up with what you currently also do, then that is your best bet for beginning to restore balance to your system. So if you have any questions, by all means, let me know. Tammy Davis, synergessence.com, or Tammy at synergessence.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.